Hey guys, LEGO Master 365 here, and welcome back to another kind of like sit-down talk video. So at the end of July, I asked you guys, what questions do you have for Tales of the NWR, kind of like a Q&A kind of thing. And it is now September, and I still haven't answered any of those questions. So I figured might as well get into it, and let's answer your questions, because you guys had a lot of questions. Before we start, I do want to say that a lot of people sent in questions that weren't related to the series. I am only answering questions that are related to Tales of the NWR. So with that out of the way, let's get into the questions. What music do you use for the intro? What music is it? How did you get the Owl House intro? The intro and outro of my series is actually a commission from Jesse Ortiz. For those of you who know, the theme is based off of the Owl House intro and outro. Both the intro and the outro are heavily influenced by the actual intro and outro from the Owl House main series. But yeah, I got it specially commissioned by Jesse Ortiz, and they are not free to use, unfortunately. So, if you do want to get your own kind of music for your own series, Jesse is definitely a wizard at making music. He actually also made a custom Edward Storm theme for Edward's Triumph in Season 3. So if you do want to get your own music, definitely go around, look for people who take commissions. Jesse is relatively cheap, in my opinion, I think, but he makes some fantastic music. And there's a lot of other people who make music. There's Smitty now, and Shunninger Studios, I think, sometimes does music commissions. Of course, One Tram Band does music commissions, but look around, see what styles you like, and see who has commissions open for music. That's my suggestion for that. Edwin Salisbury has a lot of questions. Salisbury? Edwin has a few questions, so let's answer some of them. Any advice you would give to people filming models like you do? Be patient, because model trains are very annoying. They like to mess around with you. Sometimes the track just doesn't want to work, and so you need to push it down and it will work. It's very weird. Sometimes trains just don't like the track, sometimes trains aren't happy with the day, sometimes your trains just don't like working. So, be patient. Have you ever had an engine malfunction or stop working while filming? All the time. They just cut out, they stop moving. I need to move a piece of track around, I need to replace them on the tracks. They don't like working. How do you do the faces, especially the ones that have moving eyes? Did you just rip out the eye mechanism or something? Yes, it is surprisingly easy to remove a lot of the eye mechanism from the Bachman Thomas range, especially the earlier ones. It's a lot easier to remove. Besides Percy. Percy sucks. For some reason, Percy's body is built in such a way that you can't remove the body shell without breaking it in two and thus ruining the middle seam that runs down the middle of the boiler. And the shape of the casing for the motor is the shape of the tank, so you can't even pull it out. Percy is a mess. Percy is the one that you have to spend the most time fiddling. But most of them, you just take off the faceplate, sometimes you have to take off the body to remove the actual eye mechanism piece, like Edward over here. You have to remove a lot of pieces and then put another plate back just for him to work properly. So Edward has a lot of issues, but most of them, like Thomas, the eye mech just ripped straight out. So, or Thomas alone, his eyes ripped straight out. Some of them a lot more fiddly, but you'll find it eventually. Most difficult scene to film/make and why? The scene of Mike falling off the ballast chute. For some reason, that set was just really not cooperating that day, and I was only filming on that set that day, and Mike just didn't want to fall the way I wanted him to fall. I have several takes of him falling and missing the mark, or him just like leaning off the edge, or him falling all the way off and rolling off the truck and onto the ground completely. I don't like string. I'll stick with my model trains instead of the strings. I don't know how you Wooden Railway folks do it, or any other brand. I don't know how y'all do it, but props to you. Were there any ideas, stories, characters that got scrapped? There were quite a few stories that got scrapped. I know someone else also asked that. The new storyteller also asked that. We'll get to your questions in a bit. I have about like 2 seasons worth of scripts that were scrapped. A lot of engines did get scrapped. Some of them are actually making comebacks because I finished their models recently. But Jinty was actually supposed to be in my series in season 2 when Stepney arrives on the railway to be the yard shunter or the harbor shunter. That was actually supposed to be Jinty.
'Tis the season to be jolly, fa la 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 la.
I just didn't, there weren't any Bachman Jinkies available at the minute, so I wasn't around to get one. It was just around when Stepney was coming out, and so I got the Stepney model, the new Hornby one, and I used that instead of Jinty. So Stepney is, the only reason Stepney's in my series is because I didn't have Jinty. Have you ever damaged any models while filming? Yes, Duck. In season 2, I forget which episode, but I'll show some clips of it now. It's called like, I think it's like Duck's Excursion or something like that. There's a scene where Duck's wheel comes off his axle. That was because my Duck model was able to do that for some reason. I just found it was able to do that. And so after I went to go put the wheel back on, he developed an actual waddle, like Audrey's model. So his wheels aren't fully like quarter-centered correctly, right? Or spaced correctly. So Duck actually does waddle when he runs, and you might notice that as he's going along. How long does it take for an episode to finish filming? As the seasons went on, it became progressively longer and longer to finish an episode. In season 1, I could film 2 episodes a day. Season 2, about 1 a day. Season 3, also about 1 or 2 days. I could film an episode, but by season 4, it now takes me 2 whole days, sometimes more, to film an entire episode. My process now when filming episodes is that the first day is left to the major locations. Like if an episode has like 2 or more scenes that take place at this specific location, I will film that set the first day. And then the following day, I will go and film all the insert shots where trains are just passing by, locations and stuff. So usually when I film a new episode, all the shots that are taken for those intermittent episodes usually are new, the sets are rebuilt. The only one that has been used multiple times that was only built once was the 3-road bridge, or the 3-road road, whatever you want to call that. Just because that set alone took the whole day to film. I think I only filmed on 2 sets that day. That's when I was filming the Ghost episode. So I built that set and another set before it, and I just spent the whole day trying to work on that set, and I filmed like 2 other shots, one with Thomas and one with Oliver on it, and I used those in the following episodes. Do you have plans to go more seasons with your series? No, season 4 is the last season of my series. The main reason season 4 was going to be the last season was because I was planning on going to college, but now I'm taking a gap year. So either way, I want to end Tales of the NWR before it goes on too long. If I ever do bring it back, it won't be in the format that you see it in right now. I have had plans for a new season of Tales of the NWR. In fact, Tales of the NWR was supposed to be the carry-on season from season 1. The original idea was that my series would be called Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends all the way through season 4. Or season 5 at that point. And the following series would be Tales of the NWR, which would pick up where it left off and then have like a different kind of like mold. But if I do make a season 5 of Tales of the NWR, it would be that new style I was gonna do, but it's just not happening, at least at the minute. I don't know about season 5. I don't think it's gonna happen. So, don't get your hopes up, season 4 is the end. Who is your favorite character to film with? That's a good question, because I really don't have a favorite. If I had to pick, I guess it'd be James, just because I love James's character so much. I love the colors on him, and he's also one of the most reliable runners in my fleet, so he's okay to film with. Weak, but he's okay to film with. Do you plan on having more narrow gauge centered episodes in your series? I have not had a narrow gauge centered episode in my series. So yes, all of season 4B, apart from the last episode, is going to be about the narrow gauge engines. The standard gauge engines will appear once at the beginning, somewhere in the middle, and then once at the end. Or the very last episode will be all standard gauge episode. But yes, the narrow gauge engines will be in season 4, and they will be the ending of the series. Do you plan on making a tutorial on how to make your sets / customs? I do not plan to make tutorials on the sets. Customs maybe, I probably will, but the sets, no. If you want to see how I build some of the sets, you can come to the Greenberg train shows where Thomas and his fans will be displaying all our stuff. I will have a little binder that I have a bunch of behind-the-scenes pictures of put into the binder, and you can flip through it and you can see all that stuff, including some canceled scripts that I mentioned before. There's one story in there that I really like that I popped in there. So if you want to see some behind-the-scenes stuff, come to our train shows. Our next train show will probably be the big one in November. I know that one's definitely going to be the big one. I will be there, along with the props and a bunch of other stuff. A bunch of other creators will be there, and you can flip through my thing. So yeah. The new storyteller had several questions, and I'll be answering the ones that pertain to the series. What music do you use? I use Mavis M's free-to-use music, Sergio Napro's free-to-use music. I use for the little ditties and intermittent music, Carson has a file or a Google Drive of all those, which I'm not happy about using. I do plan to at some point get Mixcraft and make my own music, and I will probably recreate a bunch of those ditties and stuff so I can have them for my own series, and probably also release those to a free-to-use file. But yeah, that's the music that I use. What's with the change of every scene in the outro? That is a reference to the outro in the Owl House Season 1. I probably should have talked about this when I was talking about the intro and outro. Within the outro of Season 1's The Owl House, you see Luce skipping through the Boiling Isles scenery and stuff, and it's constantly changing, show that she's going through different parts of the Isles. And then she gets home to the Owl House, and the season and my series directly references that outro. As you can see, it changes on the same beats, it changes the landscape. The only thing that's different is that instead of the landscape moving along and Luce staying in the center, Thomas is moving along and the landscape is staying in the same location, just because it's easier to film a train on a green screen moving across rather than pulling a camera along the landscape and trying to keep it level with where the train's going to be. So that is why the scenes change within the outro to my series. What are the faces and the eyes on your trains? Are they made from clay and foam balls? No, they are not. They are 3D prints from everyone. I get most of my faces from Shapeways. I'm starting to get them just resin printed by George Boldout95. But for the majority of the engines, they are all 3D prints. Thomas's came from Cool Dude on Shapeways. He also has some Rex faces. Edward has Xavier, Light, and Cole faces, also on Shapeways. He now has actually a single Rex face, which is a really nice one. And pretty much the rest of my engines are all Rexecutions faces, most of them coming from Shapeways, a small amount of them coming directly from Rex himself and then being printed by George Boldout95. The one face Thomas is wearing right now, I got, I think, at a Northland show that George printed a bunch of and sold at, or gave away at the Northland show to the crew. So I get the face, I give it, primer, give it a coat of Rust-Oleum aged gray, I hand paint on the eyebrows and then paint in the mouths. And then the eyes themselves are BB pellets, actually. The small engines get 6mm BB pellets, and the big engines get 8mm BB pellets. And the pupils are vinyl cut stickers, again made by George, for different sizes for the different eyes. What camera do you use? I have used 3 different cameras throughout the filming of Tales of the NWR. Season 1 was entirely shot on a Sony Handycam, video camcorder thing. It looked alright, and it had the fold out kind of display so I could lean it up and see what I was filming. The quality wasn't great, and also the sets themselves weren't great. And the editor I used was awful. I was using the Power Director on a computer and it didn't work for that well. And I used that all the way up to season 3. Seasons 2 and 3, they were filmed on a Canon PowerShot camera, which I still have. And I've filmed almost everything post Season 2 and 3 with that. I also filmed Season 4A with that camera. And Season 4B, I'm going to be using the new camera that I'm using for this, which is a Canon Rebel T7, I'm pretty sure it is, yeah. Canon Rebel T7, so it's a nice DSLR camera now. The focus is a lot more narrow. and I think it's gonna make the visuals pop a little bit more. It has like an actual like Thomas season 4 kind of yellow tint to it somehow, and I really like that. So I'm gonna be using this camera from here on out. I may get a new camera obviously later on, but for the rest of season 4, I will be using this camera. What character would you love to have in your series but is too challenging to have in it at this moment in time? That is a good question. Honestly, Boko's been kind of growing on me. But obviously there's no space for Boko in Season 4B, and he would just be a nightmare to make. He would be very expensive to print. I know because Noah has the shell, but he'd be very expensive to print, he'd be very expensive to paint. It would be a very difficult thing to actually make work because I would need like a 6-wheel bogey and then a 4-wheel bogey, and it wouldn't work. So Boko is not gonna be in Season 4, but if I could have him in my series, I think at this time I might. I never wanted Boko in my series, but as time has gone on, you know, he would have been fun to have some Edward stories with. Maybe in the future I'll make a Boko and I'll make some videos with him. But at the time being, he's not happening. Will you use your newer 3D printed models in future episodes, or will you stick to using the Bachmann models? For the only consistency throughout all of the seasons, I will be sticking with using the Bachmann models, just because they're the only thing that ties Season 4 to Season 1. Especially like some of the engines. I know Edward is the same, James is the same, Gordon is the same, Henry is the same, Percy is not the same anymore, Thomas is not the same anymore. Thomas has been like through 3 different models, or 2 different models and 1 different body shell, something like that, or 3 different. I don't really remember what Thomas has been through. Thomas has been through a lot. I didn't plan to change out all the engine spaces in between Seasons 3 and 4, but it just kind of happened, and it really helped considering the fact I didn't expect to get the big lights in the new sky and stuff. But having new faces just immediately helped change the entire feel of the series, along with all the lights and stuff, and everything just elevated extraordinarily. So for the time being, no, the newer 3D printed engines will not be in the series. Some of them obviously, like Duncan and Sir Handel, have to be because they are the only Duncan and Sir Handel models that are available to me. So those are the only like 3D printed engines that will be in the series. Will you feature some of your newly made models, i.e. Duke? Duke will be used just because he is a 3D printed model and he's he's not a 3D printed model, but he's an air gauge engine, so he will be used. Other engines like Thomas and Toby and Gordon, they will not be seen. But yeah, some of those engines, like some of the rolling stock that I've made, yeah, they'll probably be used, but not really anyone besides like Duke. Duke is kind of gonna be that one. Your favorite shots? This one. What's your favorite set to film on? This one. And finally, what's your favorite season and character, and why? That is a loaded question. Season 1 definitely is not my favorite. It's my least favorite of the 4. Obviously, you know, as time goes on, I start to like the new seasons better. Season 4 isn't finished yet. I need to still finish rewriting some of the stories in Season 4B, like some of the narrow gauge episodes, because they're just old and not the best ones. But I'm happy with how they should be coming out, and should they be coming along. Season 2 is okay. It dragged on for a while, I think. The stories got kind of stuck, and it just kind of, like, didn't sound good. Like, I didn't have a proper microphone, I didn't have the Google Drives downloaded yet for the music and stuff, so I was playing it, like, through my phone into, like, the computer's microphone, and which is why the audio sounds really weird. And I did some of that, I think I did that in a bit of Season 3 too. I don't think actually did I? No, because Season 3 was with Adobe, so. Season 3 I think is very charming because I think where it ends is like the best of my abilities. I think Season 3 came out the best it possibly could have been, and I think Season 4 is doing the same thing where it's coming out the best it possibly could have been. There's definitely, it's elevated a lot. I think Season 4 has the best stories out of everything. I think it looks the best out of everything, just because of how much change was seen between Seasons 3 and 4, and it just changed the feel of the series entirely, which is why I think a lot of people are concerned that the series is ending, because it looks like it's just picking up. But if I use this too much, I'm going to burn out quickly, and I'm not going to be able to make the amount of content that I want to make with these sets. and make it the best of my abilities. I have plenty of stuff coming up after Season 4, but I think out of all the seasons, I think Season 4 is gonna be my favorite, just because it's the most different and it's the newest one, so I like it the most. But out of like the previous 3 seasons, definitely Season 3 has the best. It has the best sets, it has the best audio, it has the best storyline, because once I stopped sticking to the 4-minute 30-second time frame, which you can see is in Seasons 1 and 2, the stories just flowed better. And that's what really helped elevate the story. Season 3 had some longer episodes, it has some shorter episodes. Hell, one episode, both intro and outro included, is only 4 minutes and 30 seconds. But it's the right amount for that episode. So yeah, Season 4 is my current favorite season. Season 3 is my favorite out of the previous finished seasons. Favorite character? It's hard to say my favorite character because the series has been kind of built in a way where it's open-ended and most of the engines don't really learn their lessons. So it would really kind of be down to like my favorite character overall, which is Stepney. But Stepney hasn't done much in my series. He appeared 2 or 3 times. He appeared quite a lot in Season 2. He appeared, I think, either once or twice in Season 3. I think it was only once. And then he appeared only once in Season 4 with a completely different model, which didn't like working. And he still doesn't really like working, but he works, so. My favorite character, I think it might have to be James again. Because I just like writing for James. You know, a lot of people write James as like the mean guy, and I do like writing him like that, I will admit that. He was the main character in the Season 3 finale. He was the main character in the Old Habits story. Right? Yeah, he was like the main character in the Old Habits story that I wrote a while ago for the 5-year anniversary of my series. I just like James. He's really fun to write for. Obviously he was the starring role in the Ghost Stories, which is an interesting story to write about. But yeah, and also he's the most fun to voice because I base him entirely off of George Carlin going, "Hello, Gordon! Is it tomorrow?" And I base James entirely off that line. And I think it's the funniest thing ever. So, I think in my series, I think I have to say James is my favorite in the series lineup. That was a very long question that was a very long answer for a question that was only like, what, 7, 8 words long? But yeah, favorite season 4, favorite engine, James. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you did, go down and leave a like. And if you really enjoyed the content, maybe consider subscribing, and I'll be doing more videos, obviously, in the future. Next week will be a Strasbourg vlog, where, as you're seeing this right now, I'm at Strasbourg, so if you see me before I leave, obviously, because I'm leaving the day this comes out, come and say hi. I'm filming for the 5 Years of Fun finale for Tales of the NWR. Basically, it's 10 Years of Thomas, but for me. So if you want to be interviewed, where I'll ask you the same questions that they did in the original series, along with some new ones, feel free to ask. Just look down in the description for more rules that apply. But yeah. If you want to see me after the fact, I will be at the Greenberg Train Show in Edison, New Jersey on November 26th and 27th, along with the rest of Thomas and his fans. We'll have a lot of stuff going on there. I'll have my own display. We'll be running trains on the main, double O gauge layout, and we'll also have the Scarlet Railway layout out there again. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we'll also have Ricky and Lewis there with the props. So if you want to see the actual engines that made up our childhood and the engines that inspired me to create my own works and probably you to create your own works, come by to the train show. We also might be having a last-minute pop-up event at Northlands next month in October. We don't know any of the details yet, so stay tuned for that stuff. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.